The live chat is already making me laugh as we're starting this thing. How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with our latest edition of Mets Free Agent Frenzy live stream. This will be the first edition, however, of our live call-in show. So the entirety of this show, which will probably go north of an hour, if not a little bit less, because I'm going to be hopping on Jim at Ballcap Sports live stream for his Bailed Up podcast starting 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Myself, Jim, and Robbie Hyde. We're all great friends. We're going to talk shop more on Yamamoto and everything, all the latest, and MLB free agency. But before we get there, this is a big show. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I'm going to give the next hour or so to you guys to come call in. I'll put a link in the live chat here shortly. You guys will call in. All I ask is that you, one, be respectful, two, get your question or comments across in a timely manner, because I want to get to as many people as I can. So please don't go on too long of a tangent. And more than anything, you know, just be honest about your opinions about the club and, of course, things going on right now. If you're a fan of another team, there's nothing wrong with that. However, this is a Mets Center channel, so please refrain from calling in if you're not going to be asking anything Mets related or sharing your input on anything Mets related. That's all I ask from you guys, as I'll be putting the link in the chat here in a minute. But before I do want to go over the latest moves for the Mets, because there's one in particular that I tutored if I want to do an individual video or not. I decided not to, because I really don't think it'll be worthwhile. However, I did want to make a note of the Mets' latest outfield signing for depth, and that is Trace Thompson. Where's there to know about him? Then from there, we're going to get into all your comments, questions, and concerns from all the live callers. Shout out to all my live members, people watching on replay. And yes, I did beat you guys with the time. All you guys thought I was going to come in here past 8:30. You were wrong. Yes, that was one of the few times you were wrong, because I usually am pretty late, but unless we're here, we're on time the best we could possibly be, and we're going to go over all the latest with the third base fits, Yamamoto, all that stuff. So especially, guys, if you have questions about the main current event things going on with the Mets, ask away, because that way it'll make things easier, so we can really combine this being our typical Free Agent Frenzy stream while having you guys live callers in, as long as we're staying relevant with the topics going on. Of course, if you want to tail off and talk about Pete Alonso extension, things of that nature, we can certainly do that, but I know a bulk of tonight's discussion will probably be headlined by my thoughts on Yamamoto, yours as well, the likelihood, unlikelihood of it happening, third base fits, Justin Turner, Gio Urshela, could they go via trade, outfield fits, bullpen fits, you name it. I know you guys are going to throw a lot of different things my way, and I'm looking forward to it. But again, I appreciate everyone for chiming in live and on replay. It is greatly appreciated. And unlike what we're going to do with a lot of other shows, because I want to get to things as fast as humanly possible, we're going to jump right to the chase and get to today's sponsor, that being in BetUS. BetUS is America's leading sports book. As many of you guys know, I've been phenomenal supporters here on the channel, and they came out recently their latest odds for Yoshinobu Yamamoto and where he will be taking his talents for the 2024 season. And as you see here, they have you covered with the New York Metropolitans as the current betting favorite. Still as things stand, nothing has changed. Plus 200, and the Mets favor. The Yanks right behind them at plus 300. The Dodgers plus 300. Might add, the Dodgers just made a blockbuster trade a couple days in the making, that being, and yes, Tyler Glasnow and Manuel Margot dealt to the LA Dodgers for some key pieces, highlighted by Pepiot, who's a big pitcher coming back the Rays way, and it looks like Tyler Glasnow will be extended by the Dodgers. So for Mets fans that are wondering where the Dodgers going to do their rotation, how serious will they go after Yamamoto? While the interest is still there for Yamamoto, it may lessen to a slight degree now. There might be more of a harder line in the sand, knowing that they just landed a bona fide frontline starter for their rotation and Tyler Glasnow. But then you have the Boston Red Sox at plus 400, the San Francisco Giants at plus 500. So if you like these odds, and if you like to do your normal sports gambling, especially as we head into the regular season, we're going to be doing a lot of unique Wardy parlays for a lot of key Mets games. Before the game, we'll discuss it, and then after the game, we'll break it down in our post-game show. If you guys like doing your over-unders, your parlays, your spread, whatever you want to go about, make sure to check out BetUS today for all your sportsbook needs by clicking the link in the description. Again, 125% boost off your first deposit. So if you put down 100, you automatically get 225. It's that easy. Again, shout out to BetUS for being a great sponsor on the channel. To do this, sorry with the intro, guys. Every single time I go back and forth, I always accidentally run my intro again, so that's on me. My apologies. But let's get into this one. Tyler Glassarm, I'm good. No, I like Tyler Glasnow a lot, and I think this is a really nice move for the Dodgers, but I know why the Mets didn't do it, because the Mets were not in the market to trade for rentals, to give up key assets like a Glasnow in this instance, like a Corbin Burns, a Shane Bieber, just to name a few, right? But I know we have a lot of questions, so I want to go fast with this. The latest moves, the Mets, of course, did a minor league signing, both pitching wise and also offensively, with invites to spring training. The pitcher I want to make sure I have in front of me, the the player I know quite a bit about already, but the pitcher, Cam Robinson, was signed, right-handed pitcher, minor leaguer, who put up some pretty solid strikeout numbers in AA, AAA, a sneaky arm that'll be depth for the Mets that they will have likely in AAA to begin the season. And then you also have Trace Thompson is the interesting one. For those that don't remember Trace Thompson, this guy came out of nowhere and had himself a really impressive 2022 season with two teams, including the LA Dodgers. And when he got dealt to LA and 80 games throughout that entire season, 13 home runs, 36 runs scored, 41 RBIs, a 256 average, a 353 OBP, a 507 slug for a 143 WRC plus, and 15 games a year prior with the Cubs, he had 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. So he's shown these flashes of power and brilliance at the MLB level. However, it has been few and far in between. You know, this past season in 72 games with two different teams, the guy was putrid. A 163 average, a 285 OBP, and a 294 slug. But why do I like this move for Trace Thompson for depth? This is this year's version, 2024, of Travis Jankowski, Tim LeCastro. Guys at an absolute best profile as a fourth outfielder, and at absolute worst are really solid players to have on the AAA level. So Thompson is not a guy I expect the Mets to crack the roster out of camp for their bench. However, is someone that, should there be a pinch, should there be injuries, especially to anyone in the outfield, even after the Mets add another outfielder at minimum this offseason, this is where someone like Trace Thompson comes into play should he impress in spring training and stay in the organization and begin the year, say, in Syracuse there in AAA. So there's plenty to like about Trace Thompson. He's a solid defender. He can handle his own in the corner without a problem. Can be a backup there for Nemo if you would need him to, of course, in a pinch with injuries. Not someone that I believe is for certain going to be the Mets' fourth outfielder next season. I think that a Michael A. Taylor fits that bill more, even if he is not only a fourth outfielder, but potentially a platoon type against lefties. Again, Thompson is basically that quadruple A veteran. He's 33 years of age now. He's not getting any younger. The guy's usually too good for AAA, and a lot of times he's not as good to be an everyday player at the MLB level, and that's not what you're asking him to be. You just want him to be this depth that you can call up should injuries happen, and again, has some speed on the base pass as well. Just solid qualities to Thompson's game, nothing that we should be getting hyped up about or anything of that nature. Just another depth move for David Stearns, which is all that he has done to this point this offseason. So I don't really think I need to expand on it much more than that. I understand that we're going to have Mets fans that are like, come on, can we finally do something? And don't get me wrong, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I promise you bigger moves will be on the horizon. Hopefully they start as soon as tomorrow, if not sometime over the weekend. All I ask is if anything happens over the weekend, that's not during the time that I'm busy doing baby stuff over the weekend as a new soon-to-be father. So aside from the couple hours I'll be busy on Saturday, I hope that some things happen and we can get pumped up about as fans before heading into next week, which will be the big one. Final thing I'll say here, the latest updates on Yoshinobu Yamamoto that we just haven't talked about since we went live last. Yes, the Dodgers saw him. That went well. They had Ohtani, they had Mookie, and they had, of course, Freeman there to represent, which isn't shocking. That's what teams typically do when they do stadium tours, as well as providing the top players. And having Ohtani certainly doesn't help their chances. Now, I do really have to wonder with the Dodgers acquiring Manuel Margot as a fourth outfielder type, obviously, but getting Glass now and extending him, how much will this come into play, if at all, with Yamamoto? I don't think it'll be like groundbreaking, but I think it'll be enough to help the Mets and other teams' chances to run their going higher in this said bidding war, where the Dodgers may have a harder line to stand. Again, we will soon find out, but there is something to make note of because they will be taking on a good amount of money for Glass now for the 2024 season, and of course then extending him long term is certainly in their interest at this point. So that's an interesting one. The Phillies did meet with him today as well, that being in Yamamoto, so add them to the mix of teams that has met with Yamamoto to this point. Everyone that has met with him has reportedly felt good, felt confident, felt comfortable, and according to Carlos Baerga, former Met, and he's been on and off the money sometimes. Last offseason, he really didn't have much things accurate when he would report what he's hearing through Instagram, but the year prior, he was pretty solid in the lockout time. But what we heard from Baerga today is supposedly the Yankees offered a a 9-year, $304 million contract for Yamamoto. Now, I cannot confirm if that's accurate. We have to wait to find out from others. Wouldn't shock me in the slightest if it's wrong, because again, he has been pretty hit or miss past couple off seasons. However, if there is any truth to this, I'm curious for you fellow fans, what is the highest number that you think the Mets should be willing to go to land Yoshinobu Yamamoto? As right now, from all the latest reports indicate, the Mets have steadily been one of the top dogs in this. Maybe not the favorite because they don't have the history the way that the Yankees or Dodgers do, but they've steadily climbed up and now are in the top 2 or 3 if they weren't already, according to Andy Martino of SNY. And they made great note that the Mets going out of their way to Japan 2 weeks ago has certainly helped their chances. It has only increased the possibility for Yamamoto to come here. So I'm not saying the Mets are a favorite for Yamamoto or anything of that nature. We've heard a lot of the same nonsense repeated every day that the Yanks look like a favorite, the Dodgers look like a favorite because of their storied history, and of course the Dodgers having Ohtani now is a very appealing thing, and I don't blame him whatsoever should he make that decision to go there. But regardless, I want to know, what do you think is the highest number to go for this case, that being Yoshinobu Yamamoto? And I'm only going to be able to be live here until around 9:20, so I want to get to you, the callers. So now, folks, I'm going to be sending a link into the live chat. Pat, thank you so much. Says, Wardy, only you can make these moves sound like the Mets are making chicken salad out of chicken shit. Pat, I thank you for the donation. I really, really appreciate that, because there's a reason not to jump the gun when you're making depth moves. And now if Trace Thompson is the Mets starting left fielder next year, I'm going to lose my effing mind, and I'll be the first to tell you that. I'll be the first to voice it to Steve Cohen, David Stearns, and everyone in that front office. So trust me, we're on the same wavelength. But what did the Mets not have the past couple years? It was quality depth. Now that the Mets' first 15 to 20 moves this offseason are depth, people are losing their minds. Let's just wait, because a lot of the players the Mets want are still very much out there. And no, they're not going to make huge splash signings in every position like they have to an extent in years past. They're going to be strategic about their spending, but that's why Yamamoto is such a priority for them and why this team has so much to lose should they not land him, because he checks off every box for them. And because if they don't land him, it will certainly have a negative impact on what they're able to do for the remainder of the offseason versus landing him and helping them more so in this, going from this not necessarily full transitionary year, but landing Yamamoto automatically increases your win probability by potentially north of 5 wins. That's how good this guy is. It wouldn't shock me in the slightest if Yamamoto single-handedly wins multiple games, rather the Mets or whoever lands him for 2024. Those things play a factor when we've seen all it takes is a couple wins above 500 to crack postseason play. If you're the Diamondbacks, if you're the Phillies 2 years ago, etc. So all you got to do is squeak in, and then you go from there to see what happens. And again, further reasoning as to why Yamamoto just makes all the sense in the world. Okay, folks, got the invite link, so I'm going to put this in the chat right now. Bear with me. Okay, folks, the link is live. If you would like to call in and have your questions, comments, and concerns answered, all I ask again is that you, A, be respectful. B, when you come to call in to the show, make sure you have the same name down that you have on YouTube. That way I know who you are when I'm bringing you in. You're not going to be on screen. You're just going to hear your voice. And again, all I ask is make sure you have the same name that you have on YouTube. That way I can figure out who's who. And I'll try to get to as many of you guys as I possibly can. Just be respectful is the biggest thing, all I ask. And again, thank you guys all so much in advance for that. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. It's been a minute. Okay, we already got Road, Alan, Eric, Hey Jack, the Mad Mike. List goes on and on. And big thing, guys, like I said, all I ask, please don't be long-winded. Whatever questions or comments, concerns you have, keep it within, a 2 to 3 minute radius tops, just because I want to get to as many of you as I can. If I go and talk with all you guys individually 10 plus minutes, I'm only going to be able to get to a couple of you before I have to get out of here. Because like I said, I have to go live. I'm going live on Ballcap Sports' channel around 9:30, which is not even 50 minutes from now. Okay, let's start here with Road. Road, do you hear me? Okay, hold on. I don't hear you, though. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Give me 1 second.
Sorry, that was me.
Oh, that was you?
I used to call in a couple of years ago.
I recognize you. What's up, man? How are you?
I was Zuri's back then. Anyway, so yeah, congrats on the baby. That's incredible news.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I won't keep it too long. I just wanted I'm just a little bit confused about the direction.
Sure. Let me help you the best I can with everything that I know.
Yeah. I mean, so I keep very I follow everyone on Twitter. I follow all the same people, right? And to me, it seems like this lineup so obviously needs at least one more power bat. I would say two. And if you miss out on Yamamoto, I don't know what there is to do except kind of punt the season. Because if you don't get Yamamoto, I don't see the point in giving Montgomery or Snell, putting them on the payroll just to have an ace caliber. It feels too much like we missed out on DeGrom, so we got Verlander. And obviously DeGrom ended up being a bad investment.
I don't think we missed out on DeGrom. I think that was a blessing in disguise for this team, truthfully.
I'm with you. But like it would just seem like we have to, because we didn't get the top tier ace on the market, that we have to shift to the next guy when he doesn't really fit our long-term plan. So, and I know, like, I think they've been keeping a lot of things private, I hope, but I am a little bit concerned that all the rumors are about a defensive fourth outfielder with the outfielders. And I just want to know, like, if we just get Michael A. Taylor, like, would you really be that surprised if we like don't add any more outfielders, like offensive minded ones? Because it seems like we're going internal.
I'll be bothered if the Mets don't add any offense for sure, and I will call them out on it. I've been very blunt about that. Regarding Michael A. Taylor, is there a possibility that they could acquire him to be more than a fourth outfielder? Yes, anything's possible, but it would be certainly the wrong direction to go down. I think we could all agree there. Unless the Mets have this mindset of, we would like Michael A. Taylor to start in left field for the first 2 months, and then we're going to call up Drew Gilbert. That, I think, is where you can have an exception, but I don't necessarily foresee that happening either. And keep in mind, David Stearns did make a note when speaking during winter meetings that they're going to be in the market for at least one outfielder, but whether they're more offensive or defensively minded has yet to be seen, because they were one of the top 4 teams for Alex Verdugo, just to give you an example. And Verdugo is one of the best gap-to-gap lefty hitters since arriving in the league. So he's around a league average hitter when you look at his numbers as a whole. He leaves a bit to be desired. However, he's not a guy that I think many fans would complain about there if he was starting in left field for the Mets for 2024, given the current circumstances and how the club looks. The outfield options via the free agent market leave a bit to be desired too. So that's why Teoscar Hernandez I like quite a bit. But it won't shock me if they don't go down that route, because maybe they don't even want to go past 3, let alone 4 years for someone right now, because they just don't like what they're seeing. Like, I think that's also a real possibility too. So one thing I think I can reiterate as much as humanly possible, the Mets are never punting on this season. Even if they don't land Yamamoto, they will likely land one of a Montgomery or Imanaga, and then they will also probably land another short-term option on a Severino type, where you're landing another 10 piece on a 1-year deal, and then they'll roll into the season like that. It's not something that they wish to do. I can tell you that right now. They desperately want Yamamoto, but this is a tough situation because the Mets may very well be a team where they have everything that Yamamoto could be looking for, but because they just don't have the story, the appeal, and the championship culture like some other clubs, that is where they could have their hands tied. Steve Cohen could offer, for all we know, $20-30 million more than the next highest bidder, and that might not get it done. Like, we just don't know. Usually how free agents work is their money first, absolutely, but the Mets need to make sure they're not in a position where, you know, if this report was true that the Yankees offered $304 million, that the Mets aren't sitting at like 306. Because then if we bring in those other factors like preferences and things of that nature, you'd have to imagine he would still prefer to go to the Yanks if it's just a couple mil difference. But if it's 10, 15, 20, then I think we have a different discussion. So what's the final remark you have for me? Because I have over 10 people waiting, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get to them all. I hope so.
We'll I totally understand. I think the final thing I'm saying is that I really hope that if we do miss out on Yamamoto, which I think is very possible.
It's definitely a possibility. Yeah,
I have no clue where he's going. It's very possible we don't get him. In the event that we don't get him, I think we should just hold our ground and not sign a Montgomery or Snell just to put like an ace, the second fiddle guy on the payroll. For
would you put Snell and Monty in the same class? Because I wouldn't.
Well, I think Monty's going to give you more volume. Snell's the better stuff, obviously. Like his stuff grades out a lot better. But I don't know. I feel like Montgomery is a safer pick. He'll probably be a little bit cheaper too. But I would love like Imanaga, who has tons of upside. Like his fastball shape is really amazing, and like he wouldn't be as expensive as Montgomery. And I actually think his ceiling is higher than Montgomery's. So he's a guy I would look at. But I wouldn't just put a bunch of money on the payroll for the sake of doing it. Like I would maybe
we have We have to avoid the Artie Moreno situation where you're just throwing money for the sake of throwing money. But Road,
Yeah.
thank you so much for calling in.
Of
Long
course.
time no see. I recognize you right away. You look older.
Yeah.
You look good. Happy to see you, my man. We'll talk again
Thank
soon,
you.
okay?
Oh, by the way, all I can see is an OBS logo. I don't know if that's
That's
the
okay.
intention.
Yeah. It's just how things are formatted. You hear me, but you won't see me.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect. Take
All
you,
right.
man.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Shout out Road for calling in. I'm going to get to our next callers the best we can. And I agree, too. I do not want the Mets to be a team that's spending for the sake of spending, because that's how Artie Moreno landed Anthony Rendon. And look how that went. No need to do that whatsoever. Let's see. Alan is disconnected, but maybe he tried it in a different time. So I'm going to... Oh, wait, never mind. Alan's here. Okay. Alan, do you hear me?
Wardy, hey again. Nice seeing you again on camera.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't we meet sometime this year?
Yeah, the first game.
There we go. That's right. I recognize you. What's up, Alan?
So-
What do you got for me tonight?
So I'm assuming this. This is my opinion. With Yamamoto, this is going to be a tough situation. 1 minute you're going to be like, we have to be careful because it's all about money. And look, you have to be careful because this thing, you don't want to be like Moreno. So I was thinking like a good plan B would be if we get Imanaga, because I remember in your videos, you said that it would be like having a Trevor Williams 2.0 plus upside.
Yeah, I mean, Imanaga, I think, has a ceiling even higher than Williams. I think I'm not sure if there was confusion there, but I may have said like a Yariel Rodriguez, I think, could be a Trevor Williams type. But regardless, Imanaga profiles right now best as a mid to back end starter. His biggest issue is the home run ball. He did give up a fair share of home runs at the MPB level. And to give you comparison, Yoshinobu Yamamoto gave up 2 home runs all season. So
Yes.
he's very good, and there's a difference. But yes, I think Imanaga would be a very nice and very cool pivot. He's projected to get around a Kodai Senga-esque contract, another very successful MPB pitcher. I like the fact that he's a lefty too. You have both him and Quintana in the rotation. I think a lot of Mets fans would agree. They wouldn't be opposed to Shota Imanaga in the rotation. So aside from Imanaga, do you have anything else that you would like to share with me?
I also have another opinion,
Yeah.
and that would lead to the baseball, like the outfielder, like what Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, we need something that is a good batter, like a good DH, because DH has been a weakness, like Vogelback, Darren Ruff, those headaches.
Yeah, no, I agree. DH is very important, and I really hope the Mets address this, even if it's short term, whether that would be a Justin Turner, a JD Martinez, shooting for the Stars, Jorge Soler, and they could land one of those guys. That would definitely be a nice look, at least where you have more bat first guys with power in a position where you're supposed to have power, which is a DH. But Alan, thank you so much for calling in. Again, long time no see. I'm happy to see you're doing well.
Good night.
And I hope you have a great rest of your night too. Thank you, my friend. Shout out Alan. I specifically remember meeting him at the Mets' first game this season, or at least one of the first games. Was I there though? Yeah, I was there, home opener. That was against the Marlins. Mets had a nice game. I was behind home plate for that one. Shout out to my man Dan. Eric, our next caller. Eric McD, do you hear me?
Hey, Wardy, what's going on, my man? I want to echo first the congratulations, Mazel Tov, on the baby.
Thank
It's
you. I
awesome.
appreciate
Just
that.
so happy. Last full name, McDermott. I'm sure you've familiar with me. OG supporter of the channel.
Yes, thank you.
Love everything you've been doing, man. Been a Mets fan for almost 35 years of my 40 years on this planet. So it's really cool to kind of see what the next generation is doing, especially like in this age of social media. Quick fun fact about me: I actually used to write for the original Mets blog site when it was up with Matt Cerrone. I actually
shout out to
covered
Matt Cerrone. He's a great guy.
When I saw his endorsement of you on X, that was really that was a cool thing. Like that was just a real full circle moment for me to kind of see him be like, being like, hey, what a great job you're doing. That was really cool.
Yeah, well,
vividly remember covering the Manny Ramirez rumors way back in the day. So not to take too much of your time, but just kind of want to touch on what kind of your ultimate wish list kind of going forward. Like if you had Steve Cohen's money, if you were the decision maker kind of going forward, what the rest of the offseason you would personally choose. And before you answer that, what I would do, I think Yamamoto, I think I speak for most people who are calling in that say he's the white whale. You got to get him. I mean, I don't really care what the contract is. I don't think any contract for a guy of this caliber is going to be an overpay. I mean, if the Yankees reported offer, what was it? I think you said 9,304. I mean, if the Mets want to come in and do 10,350, 10-3-60, give him an opt-out after year 4, year 5, year 3, whatever, similar to what Senga got. I think just do it and just get it done. I mean, he's the guy. And I agree with the last couple callers who have said, I don't think, Montgomery Snell is the pivot. I agree with that as well. I think Imanaga and maybe a guy like Giolito. But honestly, in terms of the outfielder, the guy I really want is Randy Arozarena. Ever since I heard he was available, he is the guy I want so bad. And I'm really curious what you think about going after a guy like Arozarena for the outfield spot over a guy like Michael Taylor, or anybody else. And then kind of your opinion on the DH options if you'd go Turner because of Mauricio going down versus a guy like JD Martinez, who's my personal preference. But I think honestly, Justin Turner's a great pivot as well with Mauricio going down.
So I'm going to answer this all, Eric, but I'm going to first thank you again for calling in. I know you've been a long-time supporter. I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to answer everything you just said, okay? So
you got it. Thanks, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your evening. Shout out to Eric for calling in. He's been a supporter literally since almost day one. I recognize him right away, and it's really cool to see his face as well. So shout out to you, Eric, for coming in, and answer that basically just asking what would my ideal offseason be if I was David Stearns right now. Of course, you do everything in your power to land Yoshinobu Yamamoto. You give him an offer you can't refuse. Like, I have to be in my Godfather shit right now. Like, you have to. Like, I firmly believe that he will be someone that is going to go down as one of the best pitchers potentially in our generation and our era's history. So I really think he's someone you do everything in your power to land. And if even after doing that, even if you blow him away so far and away money-wise than anyone else, he still decides to go elsewhere, then at least you can say it wasn't for a lack of effort. Randy Arozarena, I would absolutely love. And I think he's a guy that makes sense for the Mets because he still has 3 years plus of control. And David Stearns said if he's going to trade for guys, he wants to make sure that they have control too. That way it balances out the prospects that you're giving up. However, I don't think the Mets are going to land Randy Arozarena this offseason, only because I just don't know what their willingness is to give up the cost it's going to take for someone like Randy, knowing that next offseason Juan Soto is going to be available and some other key pieces. The following offseason, there's going to be some other key outfielders available. So I just don't know if the Mets want to fully commit to someone like Randy, even though I truthfully believe he checks off a lot of boxes for this team. I really do. So I want to get your hopes up on Randy. He's definitely more in that pipe dream category, similar to Eloy Jimenez and even to a higher level Luis Robert, who we would all love. We have to see the interest level. We have to see the Mets show an interest level in trading for top talents of these nature versus Emmanuel Margot and Alex Verdugo. But we do know the Mets have been very active in the trade front for an outfielder. So it wouldn't shock me if they land someone, and I would both not only be surprised, but ecstatic if they found themselves in Randy Arozarena's market. So we'll see what happens there. DH-wise, always been a huge JD Martinez fan. I just don't think he's going to come on the East Coast, truthfully. I think he may go back to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I just don't see it happening. I think if JD would have been a Met already, it would have happened. Again, we'll find out. Justin Turner's another one. He might look like a great fit on paper now after the injury to Mauricio as a veteran to help the hot corner, but also be your more primary DH. But having said that, what's his interest level in returning to the Mets? We don't know if he wants to come full circle and maybe round out his career in Queens. Like, we don't know that. And of course, you always risk the factor of a 39-year-old. Will this finally be the year his bat tails off by a substantial amount? Is he going to go, like, is he going to have the Nelly Cruz situation where Nelly tried to chug things out and he couldn't hit a lick with San Diego? He couldn't even be their primary DH, and the guy's retiring, and already he's a part of, I think he was hired by the Dodgers organization this offseason, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, but that's how I would go about my offseason bullpen. Bring David Robertson back. Sign yourself Matt Moore. You know, if you could, of course, get Robert Stevenson, throw him in there too. There's plenty of arms I like out there. Woo Suk Go coming over from KBO. He is the cousin of Jean-Hu Lee. So, you know, Giants, if you're going to take Jean-Hu Lee, give us Woo Suk Go, and then he can rekindle a relationship that, you know, he probably doesn't have a relationship with, but Mets now bullpen coach and Jose Rosado had recently coached also in Korea on top of coaching for Team Puerto Rico in the WBC, which helped not only Edwin Diaz prior to his unfortunate injury, but also Jorge Lopez, who the Mets just made official in their signing today. But now let's get on to, we have Hey Jack, Mike, AZ, John, Robert, Tim, Alex. I'm going to try to get to you guys as fast as I can in the next 20 minutes, okay? And I appreciate all your patience. I appreciate you guys waiting, but we're going to try to bang these out fast. So like I said, just try not to be long-winded, all I ask, and we will do more call-in shows this offseason, I promise. You guys are doing very well with this, so we're going to do it again real soon. Hey Jack, how you doing, brother?
Hey, how are you?
I'm great,
Congrats
man.
on the kid.
Thank you
That's
so
huge.
much.
That's huge
Thank you.
news.
I appreciate you. I know you've been a long-time supporter. What you got for me?
Yep. I'm just gonna say that Yamamoto is definitely our go-to guy. I think he is what we are waiting for, and I think after he goes off the market, then we can start making our offensive moves and all a bunch of other stuff. And I think we're just, as Mets fans, we're impatient. We want it to happen now, but it's probably not going to happen until next week, until he picks a team or if he has a second meetings. But
yeah, I feel like he's going to pick a couple days before Christmas. Like, I think towards
for
the end
sure.
of next week is.
Well, what a Christmas present would that be if you fix the Mets? Oh my God!
Of course, another offseason where we're teetering if we have a top
Yeah,
talent or not. Last year it was Correa. This year it's going to be
Correa. Yeah, no, that was crazy. But yeah, no. If we don't get him, at the end of the day, it's going to suck. It's going to hurt. But I don't think Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell are the worst, end of the day, worst people you can go get. I think, honestly, personally, I like Jordan Montgomery better than Blake, even though it's funny because Blake's won 2 Cy Youngs. But I just like Jordan's ability more than Blake. And I think if we sign him and we don't go crazy on that contract and then we go after Zach Wheeler next year, I honestly don't see that being a worst case scenario if we lose on Yamamoto. I think that is a solid backup plan in the sense of things. And because, I mean, as Zach Wheeler is almost probably one of the top tier end pitchers out there right now, and he's going to be a free agent next year. So, I mean, with teaming him up with, if we got Yamamoto and then somehow signed Zach next year, that would be insane. But I just wouldn't see that happening. I think if we got Yamamoto, we would probably go towards the lower tier of starters next year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And hey, Jack, I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to expand on Wheeler here especially. So thank you for your patience. I appreciate you calling in, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Shout out to Jack for calling in. Now, specifically Wheeler, what I want to get into, because Danny, who does a great job, one of the main writers at SNY, came out with an article today, which I pretty much fully agree with, where you don't want the Mets to act like drunken sailors here. You want them to be strategic in their spending. If they miss out on Yamamoto, even after having like $350+ million on the table, you don't want to just allocate all that money elsewhere when no one else is deserving of the money to that extent. Blake Snell has a QO on him, which is already a turnoff to me. And 2, I don't want Blake Snell on a 7-8 year contract. If you can get him on a 4 or a 5, I think there's a great argument to be had there. I think there's a better one for sure, but is he going to get that? I don't know. Snell's market feels like it isn't that big at the moment because all eyes are on Yamamoto, and I think that's hurting him. But I also know that the majority of teams that will probably go after Snell are also the ones in on Yamamoto at this moment. So everyone that was going to be upset about losing out is going to probably push that desperation to Blake Snell, and that will make his market better. But outside of Wheeler, you also have Walker Buehler, Max Fried, Corbin Burns, and was going to be Tyler Glass now, but it looks like he's getting extended. So you still look at 3 to 4 like top tier starters that'll be on next year's market currently. Now, you of course don't want to jump the gun and say, hey, we're not going to really address the rotation at all if we lose out on Yamamoto because we have all these guys available next year, when you risk doing that, because there's no guarantee that you're going to land them. Just because we might love Wheeler doesn't mean that Wheeler wants to return. He very well could want to be a Philly for the rest of his career for all we know, and it wouldn't shock me if that happens. And you know, a guy like Max Fried, he will probably go to the highest bidder, but still, that Braves Mets connection, it's hard to come by. Corbin Burns, I think, makes a lot of sense. He feels like that name that I could really see the Mets going bananas for next offseason, but there's still uncertainties. So I think if you can find that balance, if you don't land Yamamoto, land one of Monty Imanaga, land a back-end starter, and call it a day and head into 2024. You don't have the best rotation on paper by any stretch, but you certainly do not have the worst. I think if we head into 2024 and your rotation consists of Kodai Senga, one of Montgomery or Imanaga, Jose Quintana, let's say just for shits and giggles, Lucas Giolito and Luis Severino. Again, not the prettiest rotation, but for a team that's just trying to at least be competitive for 2024 and then could address as follows by the deadline, that's a rotation that could keep them afloat. Might not be the greatest, like I said. They're going to have their hiccups, but still could be a lot worse when you really look at the outside factors that go into play. But I'll say this, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Yamamoto is so vital for the Mets to land that should they not, it's really hard to foresee them having nearly the offseason that they would be hoping for. I think a lot rides on Yamamoto, which sucks because you shouldn't have that one player when you already have a payroll of $270+ million. But that is unfortunately the state the Mets have found themselves in, and they really want to put an emphasis on not only being competitive next season, but making sure that they take a step forward even higher for 2025. I think not having high expectations will bode this team well next year, with Mendoza, first-time manager, getting acclimated, with hopefully Yamamoto getting situated at the MLB level and all these things. But these are still things that take time, so we know we're going to go through trials and tribulations as fans. Ryan, we already have enough callers for the night, or else I would say come on in, but definitely next time we do a call-in show, I will do my best to hopefully get you in there, brother. Thank you so much, because we already have still 5 people trying to call in, and I got around 15 minutes to work with, so we got to bang through this fast. And trust me, guys, we will be doing more live callers. This has been a great success. Haven't done this since during the regular season, which was a minute ago, so I'm excited to be doing this again with you guys. Let's see. Sorry, got kicked out the link and can't get back in. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex. I don't know what happened there, but don't worry, Alex. Next time, I'll try to make it known. Like I said, I announced it yesterday on the community tab that we'll be doing callers. Going forward, I will always try to give you guys at least a day's notice, so you guys are very aware. Hopefully give you ample time to get ready, because it's really like survival of the fittest. Whoever gets in here first, whoever's like the first 10, then I take the link away, and then we start rolling, because I know that 10 people usually takes around the entirety of the show, or close to. But we do have Mike chiming in. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, Tyler. How are you? Congrats on the future Mets fan, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. What do you got for me?
Okay, so first off, I was looking at your stream. I was looking at the third base and outfield targets that are available in this free agent class, and one stuck out to me. His name is Jesse Winker. He's a New York native. Checks off a lot of boxes for us. Could be offensive, could be defensive. I think that we could be going after him if all else fails on the Teoscar Hernandez front, on the Grichuk front, or Hernandez front. And I also agree with a lot of the callers here that if we don't get Yamamoto, Imanaga is the pivot option. Can't go wrong with either of them.
Yeah, I mean, Imanaga I would like. Jesse Winker's a funny one. Guys, quick question, because we got over 500 viewers right now, and Mike brings up a good point. Are you in favor or are you against Jesse Winker? Because for me, I have no interest in a Jesse Winker signing, but I think a year ago, I would feel different. When he was first traded to Seattle, he was the headliner in that trade with Eugenio Suarez. He ended up becoming a has-been in Seattle fast, and Eugenio Suarez went on to go and be one of their best sluggers over a 2-year span. Winker, my biggest concern is he's lost confidence in his game. He can be pull-happy. He's big swing and miss. He's defensively liable. He is a guy that profiles best at DH at this point in his career and has struggled to also lift the ball. There's been an issue in his swing and his arch angle versus what we saw during his time in Cincy. So I understand the appeal with Winker, because he was a guy that a lot of people loved and fell in love with, because he would go back and forth with Mets fans, but he really credited Mets fans for being as passionate as they are. So Mets fans went from hating him to loving him in 2 seconds. But he is definitely an interesting name, and one where if he has a nice bounce back year, or maybe if he's balling out, hopefully in a more home run happy ballpark like Cincy, like Colorado, somewhere along those lines, I could see him potentially being a guy that the Mets have an eye on by the deadline, because if there's one thing that this Mets team lacks, it isn't just power, but it's power from the left side. Yes, Lindor provides it as a switch hitter, but as a true everyday lefty that's a slugger, the Mets do not have that.
Yeah, as a true lefty, I think it was more of a mental issue for Winker. He was used to being on an East Coast team with the Cincinnati Reds, and him being shipped off with Eugenio Suarez, really shook his confidence as Suarez took off, Winker fell off. I think it was more of a mental issue with Jesse Winker. And I was also talking with Mom about Alonso. I think a contract similar to what Nemo got last offseason should get it done for Alonso.
Yeah, Alonso's that big one too. And Mike, I thank you so much for calling in. I'm gonna wrap
Thank
things
you.
up with you talking
Thank
about
you very much,
Alonso.
Tyler.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much,
I
Tyler.
appreciate you, my
Congrats.
friend. And thank you, Shadow Mike, again for the great support. But Alonso, I don't think he's getting extended this offseason, guys. I know that we would love to see it happen. It's hard to see it happening right now. I think if it were to happen, if it does happen before the year begins, it's going to happen like right at the final hour, like Francisco Lindor did back a couple years ago. Here you go. The Yankees are reportedly considering Shota Imanaga as a fallback if they were to miss out on Yoshinobu Yamamoto, according to SNY. Interesting. We finally have it reported that the Yankees are considering fallback options. Now, not going to lie, it would kind of be sick if both teams ended up with a Japanese pitcher here. Even if the Mets landed with Imanaga, like, I'm not complaining if the Mets get Imanaga. I really do like him. I think he's very talented. Just completely different stuff. But, like, if the Mets landed Yamamoto and the Yanks got Imanaga, that would actually be kind of sick heading into next year. I'm not going to lie. Edward, thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate that. Yeah, guys, breaking news. It's been reported Shota Imanaga is on the Yanks' radar should they lose out on Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So it seems like they're thinking alike. If we're not going to land Yamamoto, we're going to pivot elsewhere. They have the Southpaws on the same mind as the Mets. Could also be a situation if, say, both the Mets and the Yanks lose out on Yamamoto. Say Yamamoto goes to the Dodgers. Say he somehow goes to the San Francisco Giants, Boston, wherever it may be. We're both going to be in the same market for a similar caliber pitcher, but I don't think Monty is going to return to the Bronx. I think that bridge has burned. So maybe it would be a situation where the Mets get Monty and the Yanks get Imanaga. That also would be an interesting one as well. Very, very interesting. That's all I'll leave you with right now. But now let's get it to our fourth from final caller, and that is AZ. How you doing, my man?
Wow. Congratulations on the kid.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Future Mets fan right there. But it's
here. Wait, I lost your audio. Did you do anything? You just sound a lot softer than before. You were great for the first couple seconds when you said congrats on the kid.
Is this good?
Can you talk a little bit louder?
Let me. I don't know. Let me check something.
Okay, let's see. How well do you guys hear him in the chat right now? AZ, just start talking for a minute.
I don't. Is it working well? Because I
hear you. I hear you. Go ahead.
But yes, congratulations once again.
Thank you.
As much as Yoshinobu Yamamoto would be great for this Mets team, if we lose out on him, I would suggest pivoting towards Imanaga, but there is one Japanese phenom that just requested to be posted, and that's Roki Sasaki. If he gets posted next year, that'd be a game changer for the Mets.
If he gets posted, by God, you give him half of Flushing at minimum. you give him everything. For those that don't know Roki Sasaki, and then AZ, I'll let you finish your comments here. He is one of the best phenoms outside of the U.S. right now. He dominated an MPB, another phenomenal season. He was a huge part of WBC's success, along with Imanaga, along with Yamamoto, along with Ohtani. It's crazy learning about all these guys since the WBC and just how it completely makes sense why they dominated the way that they did. Sasaki's 21-22, and he touches triple digits with ease on the gun. He's filthy. I 100% agree with you. You do everything you can to get him.
Because if the Mets lose out on Yamamoto, if I would say we lose out on Yamamoto to get Roki Sasaki and Imanaga, I would not be all that angry about it.
Yeah, nor would I. If you lose out on Yamamoto, but you land Sasaki if he's posted in the next 2 years, yeah, that'd be sick. Would I love both of them? Yes, but I think we love fantasizing it as fans, and then our fantasies never become reality. So let's dial it back a little bit on what we hope for, and just kind of see how the chips fall where they do. But before I get you out of here, AZ, any other remarks you have for me?
Yes, I do have another one. getting Teoscar Hernandez and having Justin Turner come in as a mentor to someone of Vientos, Mauricio, and Beatty, that would be great too.
That would be great. Yeah, I think there's a lot of appeal with Turner as that veteran option. I know even some people like Evan Longoria, for example, for a similar type feel. He just doesn't have the power to Turner's ability, where you would comfortably, I think, want him in that DH spot a lot. But AZ, I know you call in every single time we do these, and I appreciate it a lot. Happy to see you're doing well, and I wish you a very happy holiday, okay?
Yes, thank you. You too. Same.
Thank you, AZ. Appreciate him calling in. We got down to our final three, folks. We got around 10 minutes to work with. Let's do this thing. We got John, Robert, Tim. John, my man, how are you?
Good. How are you, Wardy?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for taking. I love your content. Watch it on YouTube all the time. Lifelong Mets fan. Grew up in Whitestone. Now living in Orlando, Florida. What do you think about like a Jose Ramirez and maybe a Shane Bieber and maybe a throw in a Clase in that deal? Try to get something for him, for those three. That would shore that up. We also need some bullpen help, like maybe like a Jordan Hicks or a Liam Hendricks at some point.
I think Hicks is far more realistic. I think the free agent route is a far more realistic one than the trade you proposed, just because if the Mets realistically try to land Bieber, Clase, and you said Ramirez, it's going to take their entire farm, and they're not going to do that.
Yeah, and I think if Yamamoto don't come to the Mets, I agree. Yamaga is a good thing, and maybe Giolito on a 2-year for that back end of the rotation. And yeah, Justin Turner would be a nice fit. I like that. Maybe a Whit Merrifield, something to that extent too. But we got to figure something out because we cannot go with. As much as I love Jeff McNeil, he is not an outfielder. We cannot have him out there in the outfield.
The odd thing about McNeil is he's actually profiled defensively very well in the corner, but I just think the longer we do that, the more he's at risk of getting injured, and then we're going to lose a second baseman and corner outfield for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, which is something no one needs, especially for Jeff's case. He needs to have a bounce back season, not only for himself, but also just for trade value. Because as much as I love Jeff, I don't think he's going to finish his contract with the Mets. I think he will be dealt before then. But this is a very important year for both him and the club, because the Mets have a bunch of kids and the Luis Angel Acuñas, the Jet Williams of the world that are chomping at the bit to start at second base for the Mets.
But they got to sign Alonso, and I know we're all sitting here going, it's probably not going to happen. We can only hope that it's just like Lindor at that last second, that last moment. Boom, we hear the deal, breaking news, and because Pete Alonso is probably going to go somewhere in the north of 380, 390. Over 9 or 10
There's
years.
not a chance in hell the Mets would pay that, though.
Yeah, that's
the issue. The issue is, as amazing and as talented as Alonso is, he's just a power first baseman, which is a very common thing in baseball and is replaceable. I know people are going to hate to hear this. Pete is amazing. You cannot replace him as being the top home run hitter since the start of his rookie year. There's no denying that. However, finding 35 to 40 home run guys at the first base position do churn out fairly often every couple off seasons. So those aren't a unbelievably difficult thing to find, but what you would be missing is the passion, the consistency, the clutchness that we see with Pete at times, and just the embodiment of what it means to be a Met. I think all those factors are important, but I do not foresee Pete getting anywhere past $300 million. That would shock
and real
me.
quick,
I don't even think he's going to touch
Rhys
3.
Hoskins? What do you think about the Mets going after Rhys Hoskins and having him as that potential DH backup first baseman?
I don't like Rhys at all on a personal level, but as a player, he checks off boxes for a short-term DH option. I think the Mets could circle in that category should they not land a Turner or a JD Martinez, and if he's still available. I have heard that he's already been in fairly deep discussions with the Cubs of recent on a 1 or 2 year contract. So I think that's Chicago's player to lose at the moment, but someone to still keep an eye on should he stay available. John, I appreciate you calling
Happy holidays, brother.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Great stuff from John, diehard Mets fan here, living in Orlando. You know what I love about that? I love that the stereotype holds true. You live in New York for a long period of time. You're like, F this. I'm done with the snow. I'm going down south. I'm going to Florida, as you should. My man Robbie there at Robbie High that I'll be talking to shortly, he lives in the Orlando area, funny enough. So shout out to him.